let's talk about what kind of Tottenham we want to see on Wednesday. Obviously, we know. Well, by the way, there's just been a video released on Tottenham players getting on the plane, and Maddison's been pictured getting on the plane. I don't know if that means anything, if he's just going there with the team and supporting them. I haven't seen Bergvall there, but he's getting on the team coach to go with the team. It's gotten a lot of people talking, but I don't think that means anything. I doubt it. He's got a big knee injury, doesn't he? So I'll be utterly surprised and shocked if Maddison is going to be available, but I don't think that's what it means. There's been a lot of talk going ahead of this final about, in the Europa League, we've played this much more controlled, pragmatic kind of way. Although maybe in the Frankfurt game at home, we were probably that was a bit more manageable, but we didn't win, we drew, but we played very well. In the Bodo game and away, and Frankfurt away, a bit more pragmatic, a lot more solid, a lot more organised defensively. But when we've beaten Man United 3 times this season, it has been a bit more kind of manageable, kind of the way we've played, a bit more attacking, and that's how we've beaten them. So, Dave, what kind of Tottenham do we want to see on Wednesday? What kind of Tottenham do you think is most likely to win?
Yeah, look, I think that the term being a bit more pragmatic is probably the wrong way to describe Tottenham. Look, I think, in terms of the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, I think the home leg we tried to play, through the midfield, and away from home we just went a bit longer in possession and tried to get a hold of the ball in their half. But, I think what got us here is the press. That front line, away from home or at home, has gone and pressed that back line, forced the ball either back to the goalkeeper, and he's had to pump it long, which Romero and Van de Ven turn over all day long. Or, they've tried to force that ball into the midfield and suck it in there so our midfielders can try and get in and turn it over. I think that's what we should try and do against Man United to a large degree. You look at Onana, not the greatest on the ball. If Lindelof plays, not the greatest in possession. Maguire has a mistake in him. So for me, that's the way we go about it, especially the fact now that we're missing a lot of our creative players in midfield, Kulusevski, Bergvall, Maddison. You don't really have that playmaker, so we're going to have to force the issue higher up the pitch and hope for mistakes. And I think that's what served us well to get to the final. I think that's what we need to continue. It's when Tottenham don't press and we sit off, we invite the opposition on. That's where the pressure comes on, and that's where we always go and concede goals. And there's always little periods of times under Postecoglou. The last 5 minutes before half time, notoriously difficult for Tottenham. We can't keep the press on. We end up dropping back. We concede goals, straight after half time, as well as another period, where we've conceded a lot of goals this season, where we have come out after half time a bit flat, haven't really gone on the press, and we suffer because of it. So for me, it's all about us going and pressing and forcing them backwards. That's where we can win this game, because if Onana gets into the route of long ball, it's not what Man United want to do. So we'll turn that over and keep them penned back in their half. So that should be the whole game plan for me. And without the likes of your Bergvalls, your Maddison and Kulusevskis, it's suicidal to play through midfield with the likes of Bissouma and Papa Matasar if they do get selected, because they are prone to giving away balls or sloppy mistakes in midfield, which leads to transitions and balls in the back of our own net. So I think, our best passers now in the team will be Christian Romero and Pedro Porro. So that's what we're going to have to look for. Get them in possession. Porro, if we can get him down the right-hand side and get crossing the box, great. But if not, he's got that wonderful ball that he can play over the top 4 runners. How many times have we seen Romero play a similar ball for James Maddison? If we can get whoever, whether he brings one of the strikers back into that number 10 role and help with the press or whatever, one of them can make them runs and Porro Romero can find them. So there's way around this. But I think, pragmatic, I think, has been the wrong term. A pragmatic team doesn't go and press the opposition backline and the goalkeeper. I think what we've just done is we've been smarter. We've played longer ball. We've almost bypassed the midfield, used the strength of a Richarlison and your Solankis, get the ball in their half and play that way. So, yeah, that's the way I think we should approach it. But again, I think pragmatic is the wrong word.
Do you agree with that, Brain? Do you think it's not been pragmatism that's got us there? It's just been adjustments?
Yeah, I think it's not a case of, I know exactly what Dave's saying. If you use words like going into the game, if he was using that with his team, the word pragmatic seems, it has too much negative connotation. You can't go into a final having a negative idea in your head. 100% agree, pressing is so necessary in trigger moments. So it's not a case of like you try to press every single second of the game, but like when they are playing at the back, you push them into the bottom end of triangle. You push so you play like a and this the thing is strategy of like 4-2-2 and 4-3-3. They are very very similar. And look at how Madison has played as a 10, right? How many times have you seen him make a false nine run into the box, ball over the top, false nine run? Okay, so we're essentially kind of playing as a 4-2-2, but in a 4-2-2, Madison's just a 10 behind the striker, right? But if now say Solanke plays in the 10 behind, you just have a double pivot up top. And so if you got in the midfield, you got Basuma and Bentancur, double pivot there. So you got two double pivots, but you don't even need to play with a double pivot because I just think you have Solanke kind of coming in a little bit lower. So he's the bottom part of the press. Richarlison runs and pushes the ball into the shape, and then bang, it's where you have Solanke in there to close. And he's strong, and he will close the distance really quick. So as a press guy, it works perfectly to have him as the 10. He's just maybe not as creative as someone as Madison and Kulusevski maybe. But remember that game against Villa where he scored the dink goal? Mm-hmm. In that game, Solanke was going into the 10 space and he was playing lovely balls through the line. So he can do it. And also he's strong. So when we coming off a defensive situation, you want Richarlison up top and hope that he could somehow stay on side because he's so bad at staying on side, right? So you have Richarlison up there, and then you just have Dom doing what he's done a lot of the time in the season, going into the half space below the halfway line, muscling a guy off, and then setting play and setting balls through the line. Obviously, Sonny on the other side, and then you've got your right, probably BJ. So I do think it can work really well. I think there's been times. So like it's all about creating space as the 10. Madison does it with his little kind of Cruyffy look to go this way, then he goes that way. That's how he creates his space, and it's very effective. But Solanke creates space by looking at the player coming in, and he bashes him off the ball, and then he creates space. Do you know what I mean? So I think Solanke has the attributes to be a very good 10. And I think his whole time at Spurs has been an adaptation away from what he was playing like. He was doing a lot of link play and coming deeper for the ball. But I think another key success in this game is if United sit back, if they don't come and make it like a back and forth basketball game, if Amarin goes, look, no, we're not going to have Sonny in a foot race with Lindelof or Maguire. We're not doing that today, right? So they sit. Then then we start playing the kind of slowly, gradually pinning them back, and I just don't want to see that game. But if we do, then in a 4-2-2, the benefit of having Dom and Richie in the box, Porro has got to be whipping balls in the box. If they're going to sit there, that's going to be our key to defense. And Sonny, the other side, left foot, swinging in the ball in. We've just got to get balls in the box because Lindelof's not great in the air. Maguire is the only one who's good in that back three if it is Maguire, Lindelof, and Shaw. There's only one player. He can't defend that area. Lindelof is bad in the air. And he gets muscled out of the way very easily. So if they're going to do that, then our strategy is 4-2-2, balls in the box, balls in the box, balls in the box. And then you think that Richie is then perfect for that, and so is Solanke. Those 2 and a 2, if that's, in corners and stuff, that is a strong way of trying to win this game.
Apart from set pieces as well, United, that's also going to really benefit us defensively and offensively, having those two kind of... you say that. I think goal scoring wise, we're one of the best, I think.
Defensively, we're one of the worst in the Premier League, aren't we? From set pieces.
I don't know. I don't know what the stats are for how much we've conceded. But if you have Solanke and Richarlison there, Porro taking those set pieces, you would think that's an advantage we could get, that extra aerial threat. I think he is going to go with Solanke and Richarlison. And I think, as you say, we actually saw it literally the last game on Friday.
Yeah,
Reece James. I'm saying, first of all, for that, but I'm saying if you actually look at United, the goal they conceded, Reece James picking the ball up at the half space, just dinked it to the back post, and there was Cucurella there to head it home. I'm thinking we can easily replicate that goal if we just get Richarlison and Solanke in there, getting them in between the spaces. And even Sonny, if getting him to the byline, getting him whipping it across the face, and you've got two in there in Solanke and Richie who can get on the end of it. And I think that could be, and even Brennan as well. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be very difficult for Man United to handle, I think, if we go with Solanke and Richarlison Richarlison. But I think obviously it means Solanke definitely knowing what he's doing when it comes to when we're out of possession, being in the right spaces, making sure he's picking up midfield players, because he's going to be obviously playing a different kind of role than he's used to. Solanke's usually just chasing down the centre backs, and obviously it's going to have to be a bit different if he's playing maybe a bit kind of, I wouldn't say 10, maybe more of a 9.5, just like a bit deeper, like a Harry Kane light, I would say. Not quite Kane, not as quite as deep as Kane, because I don't think he has the playmaking ability of Kane, but like just picking up the ball and just basically allowing us to retain the ball higher up the pitch, shielding it, and then bringing other players into play, but a bit deeper. And obviously, you can still make those late runs in the box, and I'm sure you can still pick up those spaces and get off on the end of things. And and in terms of what Tottenham I would like to see, I mean, I think if you were analysing Man United, and you would say, what's the best way of hurting them? I think going at them and like forcing them into mistakes is probably one of the best avenues, because they just make so many mistakes in the back, don't they? But you also have seen in certain games, like they went to Anfield, they got a draw. They went to the Emirates in the FA Cup, and they went through. They do have an ability in some of the bigger games away from home of breaking, counter-attacking, and being quite clinical, or being quite a well-organised team in that. So maybe you don't want to give them that. Just don't give them the opportunity to do that. Sit off them a bit, allow them to kind of make their own mistakes, and then we kind of hit them. So I think maybe that might be the best way. Just get Porro going long into Solanke and Richarlison, winning those second balls, making sure I think what we did against Bodo and Frankfurt is not like we didn't press, it's just we were very much picked our moments too. We were much smarter with it. We weren't just gung-ho constantly running in their faces. It was like we waited till they got to a certain point and then we'd run at them and go at them.
Well, there's usually a player they trigger, isn't there? Like there's usually a player that you pinpoint and you'll say, when that ball gets there, everyone go, get the pressure on, cut off the passing options, and we'll turn that ball over. Usually that's the way it'll work. There's usually a player that as soon as they get that ball, boom, off you go. There's a trigger for it usually.
Yeah. And I think there's an opportunity as well when United, because it's wrong to think like it should be all us in attack and us kind of, they have to come at us, and we have to be strong mentality to go, this is our opportunity. Like, we should want them to come high and come at us. And when we get corners and, when they have a corner, that's an opportunity for us, because the ball in hand, playing quickly out, getting it like a link through, and then getting Sonny in behind on that kind of running from out in, that is like a huge thing for us. Like, Sonny, you want him to be coming. If it's a 4, obviously he's got more responsibility to come back. Even in a 3, he has to come back a lot. But you kind of want his head going, I got to go. Because he's the one with still, he did it the other day. Like, he picked up the ball just outside his box and he went all the way up, right to the speed that he went all the way up was insane. And he cut it back, and Odegaard didn't stall his run. Tell was already in the box. Odegaard just followed Tell to the same place. It was like, mate, cut your run. And Sonny's ball was a perfect 45 back, and it just went behind him. It's like, that's Odegaard, that's not Sonny. Everything Sonny did in that match was in that run was perfect, and that's what we want to see him doing, because there was something in his face when he when he gets and he just goes and he runs. He had that in his eye. He had that like, let's go, So that's, we gotta be hoping that we use Sonny like that, and that's going to be available when they have corners. If we get ball in hand or headers out, touch around the corner, bang, ball up there, Sonny in a foot race. And let's hope it's not Mazraoui, but like Sonny in a foot race with Lindelof or Maguire, and
And you got 2 players on that pitch, don't you, in Romero and Casemiro. Both really know how to win a final. Like, they've both been in quite a few finals and got over the line. Obviously, Romero not for Tottenham, but for Argentina, he's won every trophy he's competed in terms of, and every final he's played in for Argentina. Obviously, Casemiro for United as well, and for Real Madrid, just knows how to has that mentality of how to get over the line. And do you think mentality is going to come out on top of this one, Dave?
I'm hoping Romero's mentality will come out on top. But look, with Casemiro, I think he is more in a position in the midfield to be able to affect the game both ways, whereas with Romero, it's more so him keeping out goals. Don't get me wrong, he does pose a threat. I mean, from set pieces we're talking about, how many does he get on the end of as well? Even Solanke's goal out at Bodo Glimt, it was a Romero that rose high and put it back into the danger zone. He'd be a huge asset that way, but defensively, but also both are prone to red cards. So hopefully, Romero can keep his cool. But look, I just think when I look at United, I think there's three main players I look at. I think Casemiro, look, you never write him off at your peril. He's been there, he's done it. I think Bruno Fernandes is the other one. I think I've seen a crazy stat. He's been involved in like 80% of United's goals over the last few years or something. That's like ridiculous. That. Something crazy. He knows how to affect games. He's a danger with the ball at his feet in terms of shooting. He's a danger when you let him into the half spaces to cross the ball in. But also, he makes these runs sometimes that you don't expect. If he's on the end of him, he will pose a threat. So for me, do you do a man-marking job on him, trying to eliminate that threat? And then the other one is Maguire from set pieces, obviously, and we do concede a lot from set pieces. Vicario is very flappy underneath the set pieces. We're not the best aerially in defending our set pieces, and Maguire will become a problem. But equally, we've got our own threats, and I just think the fact that we've got more of a youthful squad, I just think the whole mindset, the whole squad going in there, I think will just pay off for us in the end. Whereas I think with Man United, I think how many of them just can't wait to end their United nightmare, their United hell, get Europa League final over and done with, get out of there. How many people are actually committed to the cause? Is there that togetherness between the manager and the players? I'm not quite so sure. People have questioned that at Tottenham. But the reality is, despite people questioning it, every player that's come out and spoke, they've all said they're still behind Postecoglou. And something that I've been trying to say all season. When you've got a manager defending your players, that's why they're going to play for him. He's been out there. He's shielded them from absolutely everything this season. And you could see that with the win away at Frankfurt and also with the Bodo Glimt. There's the togetherness with the camp inside Tottenham Hotspur. And I'm thinking that will be enough to push us over the line. I think this final, with two teams coming into it in poor form, I think it's going to be more of a sum of all of its parts rather than relying on an individual.
Yeah, I just think that settled backline, I think, is what you say, like Vicario, Porro, Van de Ven, Doggy, Romero, like them together as a unit, the way they've performed recently than when they've played, it just looks so much more settled and so much more compact and organised compared to Man United, who are going to have a bit of a mishmash backline, I think, going into this game, depending on who's fit. But even if they're rushing players back from injuries and things like that, and a lot of the time I always feel like it never really pays off when you rush players back from injuries. Usually they're never really in their best form. You could be looking at a backline of Maguire, Lindelof and Shaw, or even a fullback in there. And I think that could be the difference, because I look at Man United's front line. I know Bruno's obviously been brilliant, but like Højlund, I'm just not worried about him. I think Romero and Van de Ven are just going to have them in his pocket.
Let's not start doing that, because you know what'll happen.
It's kind of like prime Ronaldo, prime R9.
I think the only advantage they got is in that midfield area. I think defense and attack, we got them, but in that midfield, Ugarte, Casemiro, that's where they can, and Bruno obviously, that's where they can really compete. I think
I can see the thing that could lose us this is just if Romero is like real hot-headed and goes in and it's a straight red, or if Mickey doesn't feel right and kind of has to go off, and then you've got Ben Davies at Danzo comes on at left, but things like that is going to ruin this final for us. And we might be able to muscle through, but that is just going to be, trust that this happens. That will be the curse.
Why can't we have something go for us in a final? Why can't we get a dodgy handball in the first minute? Why does it always go against us? Why can't we get a red card in our favour in a final or something like that? Let's just hope, maybe this can be the final where things go for us for once. Because it always goes against us.
If they do go in and with a positive mind state, knowing we've beaten this team 3 times, we've come through really tough games against teams who are strategically very good, there's no real evidence that we should not cruise this game, with this team, the way that we play. Even not having Maddison and even not having Bergveld, with the right start, with the starting 11 that you would think genuinely should start this game, you would have BJ. It might be the one where you kind of discuss it, but for his goal tally this season, he definitely starts Sonny on the left, Richie in the 9, behind him Solanke, then a double pivot of Benny and Basuma, and then your back four that you would 100% start with, and then Vic. Like that should cruise this game, man. It really should. If they play positively and they believe in each other, and those relationships are now kind of quite well formed, like you got to say, we should really cruise this game.
I think we've got to score the first goal. I think one thing I've noticed this season is if we go behind, we don't have that bounce back ability that maybe we had the season before. There was a time when we were making substitutions, turning games around last season. We haven't shown that in a long, long time here. So I think first goal is absolutely crucial that we score it. And the thing is, I think with Man United, I think even if they go behind, they've shown that they can come back. You know, they've shown that they're not defeated. I think we haven't. So for me, I think the first goal to go in our favour is absolutely monumental. I think we score first. I think we go on and win it. I think if we concede first, I think then it becomes a long, long evening.
We're very good at going 2-0 down and then getting a goal back. We're not so good at coming back and overturning it usually, 100%. I think just the mindset, I think, as well, because obviously we know the gravity and how much this game means. And I think if we can get that first goal, I think the belief will just start to flow. Like the Bodo game, like it was such a big occasion. I know whether it's Bodo and whatever, but it was such a big occasion. We just got that goal right at the beginning of the game, and it settled everyone down. And I think everyone like knew, okay, this is going to be our day. Like after that moment, and the fans like were on side. The unbelievable atmosphere on that night, and I think that's exactly what we need. And I think when we know basically what a big occasion it is for us, if we get that first goal, like. And that can kind of maybe convince everyone, maybe it's going to be all right. Maybe this is going to be our day. Yeah. Belief, not just the fans and the team as well, that actually start to believe this actually is going to happen for us today if we get the opening goal, I think.
Because the problem is, if we go a goal down and you get into the second half and we haven't got that goal back and we are chasing the
panic
game.
Stations,
What do we have off the bench to kind of turn the game around? Do you know what I mean? Then you don't have much. Like, is Tell going to turn the game on its head? Is Odegaard going to come in and have a worldie? You don't know. Like, it doesn't. There's no real evidence for that. It's not like you got Madison and come on, and Madison's great in the last 10 minutes of games. You know, like you don't have a Bergvall come on and just take the game by the scruff of the neck. That's the worry. And then probably later in that game, if Benny and Basuma have like had a tough game, if one of them go off when we're 2-1 down, it's like. What are we going to do here? You know, that's the worry. So
I agree.
Get one up. Try get one up early. Maybe try get one early in the second half, and then it's not to say fall back and defend for your lives, but then you can do things where you can bring a Danzo on, move to the three, but kind of just be a 5-4-1, and then still counterattack. But
I think you're absolutely spot on there. I think, in terms of the whole game plan, we've got to be aggressive. We got to try and go and score that first goal. We got to look for it because Brains is spot on. We don't have the bench to change it, to try and get back into a game or, push on. But we do have a bench to be able to make substitutions to see it out. Like the 4 players you're bringing on, for instance. No one really believes they're going to fashion that opportunity. But what they can't do is get back on the press and force that ball backwards. Same with the midfield. You make a change in midfield. Say if you bring on Sarr for one of them, you're not really making a change where you're bringing on a passer who can spray that ball around and get in possession. You're bringing on a guy that works hard and breaks up attacks. So I think Brains is absolutely spot on. With the bench we have to go and force the issue and get the first goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then Sim, do you think he then... Is there something in him? I mean, this is where, everyone cries for a manager to, hey, come on, like, don't be so gun-ho. Does he then go, well, all right, well, maybe I'll not start with Sonny, or maybe I'll have Sonny come on later in the game because he can do something. Maybe I won't start with both Richarlison and Richie on because that is so gun-ho. Maybe I'll just use one of them later in the game.
Well, he might be forced into it unless Sarr is fit. Unless
it's not Ange's nature, though.
He could play Odegaard, but no, I think Ange will. He's going to try and go and win the game. I think he's not going to be.
I think he has to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just who he is. I don't think he's going to be pragmatic. I think maybe
if he starts.
The most pragmatic we might see him is if we're a goal up going to the last 10 minutes, he might bring Danso on and go back 3 for the last 10 minutes. He might do that.
If he starts going into the realms of I'll hold this player back and look to be in the game and then bring him on and go and win it, that's not Ange's game. It's not what he's known for. And I think then he overcomplicates the final, convolutes it. Something that people are aimed at Guardiola for a lot. When he gets these big games, he sort of overdoes it a little bit, trying to pull off these genius sort of tactics and stuff like that. I think Postecoglou has to stick to what he knows. It's what got him here.
Isn't that nuts though? That through the whole season, we're watching so many of these games, and like our criticism is like, oh man, have another plan, have backup, have another way of playing. We get to this final, we're like, please just do you, just you. Over it, just no, throw it all to the wind. It's now or never. Like, and I'd rather if we did go out, this is the one time where it's like, if they did just get a lucky goal early and or it's a basketball game and they win 4-3 or whatever, I'd much prefer that than going in with a pragmatic approach and they get a goal from a corner anyway. It's like, no, this is your big game. This is the game. Go be strong, be positive, play for each other, and get that goal early, and then get the ones first straight after the half. Get the goal. They're going to throw everything at it before halftime. Do not lose. Don't go in 1-1 at halftime. You must go in 1-up. That mentality of going up with a lead into the final 45 minutes. Don't go in 1-1. Get the lead, get the goal just 5 minutes before, secure, then go again and just get the goal in the second half. And that's how you've got to win that game.
And also, if there's one guy I kind of back to kind of find the right words to say before a big final, in terms of getting the team up for it and getting them, making sure that they come out firing, it probably is Ange. With some, you see the speeches he says and all in the dressing room, all that kind of stuff, and how good he is at talking, and what a great record he does have in finals. By the way, I think apparently he's won 90% of his finals or something like that in his career.
Who was it that said recently that he does one almost every day, like since they were he's like, he's doing it all, that he does these speeches all the time. Like that must be, that after a while, that must be quite a thing to build a team up to start to believe. If they're hearing that kind of positive, you can be the one. I'd much rather that phrase being visually presented to them than the dare is to do any of that nonsense. Like, you could be the one. It's such a powerful fucking
And he said, look at those pictures on the wall. That could be your picture next. Yeah, you're going to be on that wall.
If you go back and listen to the speech he gave to the Australia team, heading into a World Cup, if you go back and listen to, what he done with Celtic, and I think it's similar with Tottenham Hotspur, his way of motivating is he uses all the outside noise, everyone that says you can't, as motivation, and basically with inside, he's like, it doesn't matter what people say outside. With inside, we're one big family. He then, encourages them to bring their wife and get involved, their kids and stuff like that with the club and stuff. And then what he actually does is, when it comes to delivering in these finals, he then starts talking about legacy. The legacy of your last name, your family name, stuff like that. That's the way he usually motivates these players heading into these games. So in their brain, they're going out there and going, okay, it's all about legacy, my last name. So when it comes to maybe moments where they're switching off, all of a sudden it's a reminder. That's the way he usually, when I've looked at his career, that's what he uses to motivate these players going in there. Now, how much these Tottenham players play off that, I'm not quite so sure, but I would expect that would be the way he's going to motivate this team heading into the final, just based on the way he's done it at previous clubs.
I think that's the way he motivates himself. He was asked recently about, he's like, I think the guy said something, it wasn't the exact words, but he said something to the phrase of, can you imagine if your dad could see you now or something? And, and his answer, just before he answered it, he took like a, he lost his kind of breath for a sec. And I've seen him do that, like the one in that Australian one where he's saying about, think about your families watching you, think about, and your grandparents and all their lives, everything that they've gone through to get you here now, all the kind of struggle and sacrifice to get you here now. Like that's, so I think that's how he's motivated. I think that's how he looks at football. Do you know what I mean? I think that's how he looks at his career. And in answering that question, he kind of divoted away because I felt like he was going to cry if he did. And when he did that speech just recently before the Bodo game, you could see he was like really, like his voice got shaky at parts. But that's huge though, because players really take to that. They really do. They like, because once you get a bit of that, oh man, I want to give this guy a hug, like then you're gonna go and jump in front of a train for him. You know what I mean? Like, so man, I'd love to have a fly on the wall little, I'd love to see footage of this speech. I'm sure maybe we will,
If we win, we will.
Yeah,
for sure. I think we're all looking forward to one. What's called if they can show release footage inside the dressing room with one of his speeches after lifting a trophy. I think it'll be absolutely fantastic. And we all know, he's probably going to bring up, "I always win trophy to my second season" in one of his interviews and stuff like that. He's going to drop the mic. It's going to be something, yeah, it'll be special, but we have to win it. We have to win that game on Wednesday. That's what it's all about. What did Mourinho used to say? He said, finals aren't for playing, they're for winning. That's what he used to say, Mourinho. And he was obviously very, very good in finals, and that's what we got to do. But look, just talk about quickly, Wednesday, where are you guys? Brains, you're going to be in the studio, hopefully, with Ash and Marlon and Josh King. Yeah,
that's going to be bad. So I'm really looking forward to Josh because I love Josh, but like obviously we're like... sometimes he's brought me to the depths of despair with the kind of the Pezzy outlook, and I just really want to be positive about like the team I support. I want to go into every game like feeling good, and I've tried in the last few days to really stay away from any negative conversations about Spurs or, oh my God, what if this, I don't want to think like that. I just want to enjoy the day. I'm going to be at work and then I'm going to head straight to the studio. And then I'm so looking forward to seeing Ash and Marley and then Josh. And I just want to see Josh's face if we win the game. I just want to see it. I just want to see him have nothing to moan about. Like, you know what I mean? Like you've always got that friend who's like a Spurs fan and you're like, oh, you sit with Arsenal fans and you're like, nah, you're bantering with him. And then you turn to your Spurs friend and he's like, nah, because they've got a point. And so I want to have, I'd even love to see like Alex's face, like people who are like, you love them, but they just don't seem to have the ability to be happy, and from years of this trauma of supporting Spurs, you understand it, but we're in the final, we got to be happy, we got to like have a joyous, time and enjoy this moment in our lives, because if this happens and we do win it, it will be so huge for us all because it will be the first time that we've seen this, So we've got to savor those moments wherever you are. Like I know you're going there, Sim, and I know you bought your you bought your hotel.
I bought my hotel a year ago, yeah.
But it turned out that it worked, And so I just hope that we all take that moment if we do win it, and if we go up and just enjoy celebrating being Spurs fans and then if we win, just like hug each other and be happy, man. And don't even think about anything else for a while, just enjoy it, man. We've got to enjoy this together.
And I find it funny when people say like winning the trophy for Tottenham is just papering over the cracks. It's like, do you know who you support? It's like, are you aware that we're Tottenham fans? Like, this is it for us. Like, it's not about papering over the crack. Like, the trophy is what we want. It's not about anything else. Like, we are desperate and thirsty for a trophy at this football club. We haven't seen a European trophy for 40 years. Like, it's like, this is what we are aiming for. This is like the goal is to win the trophy, not papering over the cracks about the problems. This is what we want, is this trophy. Like, if everyone, at the beginning of the season, if you asked everyone before the season, what would you want out of the season? What's your number one priority? I think everyone would have said Europa League.
Sam, did I not say I would take a trophy and relegation?
You did, yeah.
That's how. I mean, obviously I was bantering, I was joking a bit, but like, that's how much. For me, this is like 30 something years. I can't count. Like, so 90. So, yeah, 36, 30. How many years? 36 years, 35 years. A Spurs fan. This is a 35-year journey to see us win this. Like, it makes it all worthwhile. It makes 35 years mean something.
Like, people still talk about that 84 team. Graham Roberts, Tony Parks. They talk about his penalty saves. Like, that's 40 years ago. Because we won a European trophy, people still talk about that team. Like, that's how big it is for us.